Enter, enter, we have begun. Happy new moon, dear soul. Okay, so I know not every time do we feel like we're being beautiful every time. That's the reality of the beauty experience. And that's what we did sign up for. But embodying your soul blueprint through your current human vessel means you get to dance with both these parts of yourself that you're not feeling comfortable fully expressing, fully creating from, fully embracing. And that's why it feels like you're floating through your existence, because you're rejecting these parts of yourself, you're judging and shaming these parts through conditioning, through adopting other people's soul blueprints and performing your radiance. And instead of actually witnessing your human self and creating a safe space for it. So when you pedestal other people's soul blueprints, you're always going to feel inferior to them. You're always going to doubt your enoughness. You're always going to doubt your vision. You're always going to doubt your presence. And that's why you find yourself being around people who don't really get you, who don't really see the best version of yourself, who don't pour into your power. And you want to meet those parts of yourself that are so powerful, but because you embodied them around people who were uncomfortable with their own power, you internalized that rejection, you internalized that pain. And that's why it feels so depressing and so uninspiring to live your life. Because you're playing your life according to the rules of those people who deemed their own power. And if you watched my video yesterday on the Sinners movie, by the way, you should really watch the movie if you haven't. It's really good. We spoke about embodying wholeness from your sovereign choices. And your sovereign choices are what individuate you from people who don't align with this version of yourself that you're aware that is coming online, but you feel so disconnected from because you're still trying to connect to that version of you from outside of yourself instead of from inside of yourself. So that pain, that ache you feel like, oh my gosh, like no matter how much I do, no matter how much inner work I've done, I'm doing everything I'm supposed to be doing, yet there's nothing that's changing. I still feel so separate from my power. I feel like I'm shrinking. There's more reason to shrink. And it's because that you're letting your mind lead you instead of your heart. So I really recommend you watch that video. Well, watch the movie first before you watch the video, because you'll receive even deeper the codes in there. Your essence can't be performed. It just is. It's being comfortable with your stillness, being comfortable with your easiness, with your pauses. And when you're being seen, there's no space for other people to project their own self-judgment. Well, people are always going to do that. But you're not internalizing it because you have fully received all you are, the good and the bad. And when you're floating, when you're half-assing, living in 3D, living fully in union with within your matter, within this. You're just receiving life through you as you. There's no separation from your wholeness. There's no separation from who you truly are. There's just receiving parts of yourself that you haven't met or you've been taught to separate yourself from because you wanted to fit in and belong in a circle that you truly didn't believe in, that truly didn't believe in you. So you had misaligned values. And because there's this deep aching to belong, this deep aching to be loved, there's a shadow motivation to just belong, to just associate yourself with people who don't really serve you, the best version of yourself, who don't help you expand into the version you came here to embody and express. And when there's that disconnection and you keep investing into that disconnection, this is why you feel like God is not around, you feel like you're all alone, you feel like you're hopeless, because there were these choices that came from your conditioning, the conditioning from needing to fit into something outside of yourself. So I invite you to hold space for this part that triggers you to float out of your matter, to float out of the reality of being you right here, right now. And notice what gets activated. Notice what gets brought up through your heart space. If you want to truly meet more parts of yourself, you want to meet the more powerful version of yourself, more than this current version of you, you gotta go through. There's no bypassing. When you're floating, you're not going through. You're like seeking something outside of yourself. You gotta gather all that energy and bring it here. And when you arrive into your heart, your soul blueprint can actually help navigate life, can influence your mind. Because when you're out there, your mind is being used by external forces. But you want to come back in your heart space so your blueprint gets activated and it starts sending you codes from there. And then those codes are not going to be comfortable. They're not meant to. Because imagine all these eons, these centuries, these thousands of years we've been taught to disconnect from our power because people wanted to control us, because people wanted to make an example of what happens when you get in your power, so that we could have a group thing, so we could fit into their own dogma, into their own ulterior motives. And there wasn't good intention, And some of it might have had good intention, but it wasn't the best for you. It wasn't best for your soul. And that explains why we live in a world where we feel like we have to constantly seek something outside of ourselves. And the seeking is what constantly feeds this disconnection. You're seeking something other than yourself. And this has nothing to do with judging what you're witnessing and becoming aware of. It's about desiring to really understand your motivations. What motivates you to seek outside of yourself? Going really deeply within yourself. Getting to know yourself, right? And also get my book, Get to Know Yourself in 21 Days. More info in the About section. When you invest your time and energy to actually make yourself the most important person in your life, you're not just saying it. You're not using your ego to project it. You're actually doing it. You're embodying it. You're prioritizing your wholeness. You're prioritizing your soul's instructions. When you continuously do that, that need and desire to seek something outside of yourself, it disappears. It becomes smaller and smaller and smaller. And because the world is designed to trick you into believing that there's something outside of yourself that will make you feel better than you currently do, there's always going to be that temptation. There's always going to be that dance. And this is why you want to create a lifestyle around pouring into your soul blueprint instead of taking away from it. This is what it means to be sovereign. To do the painful work that comes with individuating yourself from the groupthink that sucks life out of you. And it doesn't mean that you don't get to be famous. We all have different desires, right? It's about realizing that all these things that you desire, more wealth, more success, more fame, more attention, it's just going to amplify what's going on within yourself. So you might as well clean up what's going on within yourself so that when it gets amplified, is the things that are getting amplified are things that you actually want to get amplified. And you want to get soul clarity, not the ego clarity. The ego clarity, that's easy, that's shallow. I mean, you can buy it instantly like that. Soul clarity, it requires work. It requires looking the places that majority of people are not willing to look at. And that's what power is about. It's about taking ownership for what's yours, what you can control. Instead of surviving, you thrive. You choose to thrive because you know your soul has so much more to give, but you can't give from survival. You overflow from thriving. And these systems are not designed to, these old earth systems are not designed to support your soul. They're meant to plug into your soul so it can feed itself. So it's really making where you are an initiation into your power, instead of making where you are what's preventing you from being in your power. It's about noticing the themes that are being reflected to you by the people you're pedestaling or the people you believe you're better than, and using them as information that your soul is trying to communicate to your human, so that you can come within yourself and change your posture. Because with these divine intelligence that comes from unifying your matter with your divinity, it requires you to earn this consciousness. Because before, in the previous civilizations, this information just came to any heart posture, and the evil, those people who didn't have pure intentions, got a hold of this information, and they destroyed people. They took advantage of it. So it's about doing the work, the right work, because anybody can do inner work, but it's paying attention to what's live within you, not what other people are telling you should focus on. That was their blueprint, because that's what their human needed. But what does your human need? What do you need based on your life experiences, your current pain points? Not what your ego is acting as if. No. What you're floating away from. And when you do this work and rearranging your life so that you're not constantly in emotional survival mode, but you're actually nurturing your heart space, it becomes easier to lead from your soul. It becomes easy to embody leadership because of the way you lead your life. Because of the way you receive yourself. Each moment, you're not making it wrong. You're not like, oh, I need to act like this. This is how a proper human acts. You're receiving all of it. There's no performance in your inner world. There's no performance with soul. It just is. And when you do this over and over and over and over again, that need to seek validation outside of yourself, it becomes boring, because you're like, that takes me off my center. I want to be sitting in my God-given throne. And when you continuously pivot like that, and you gather your energy into your center, into your heart space, it becomes easier to speak from this version of you that no longer doubts and dims and delays your brilliance, because you're being brilliant just by doing that. You're remembering. So you're craving fierce presence. Your soul is craving fierce presence. Your human is running from this fierce presence because there's something that you've been conditioned away from holding space for within yourself. And the conditioning has pushed you out of holding space for this version of you. So your role is to really pay attention to this. And when you do, your gifts become a way you express your soul, a way you express your individuality, a way you express your sacred journey as a human, the way you transmute solutions from your beingness. And life becomes easier because there's no performance, there's no living life according to other people's rules. You're not creating life and creating structures and systems around you based on other people's soul blueprints. No, you're basing it on your own soul blueprint. And that work to individuate yourself from other people's soul blueprints and fully owning your soul blueprint is what claiming your power is all about. That's what you're low-key craving. Receiving the whole you. And when you do that, that feeling of being invisible, being ineffective, it goes away because you're here with yourself. You've met yourself. You've come in union with all these parts of yourself you are floating away from. And that's the magic. And I have a framework that I use to wield your power back. And you're not going to piece it together off my videos here on YouTube. This is sacred work. It's about recoding your mind-heart connection. Recoding how you respond to life. Recoding how you receive information through your body, through your mind, so that you intuitively know how to pivot from what's yours and what isn't. So you know how to differentiate them and pivot from what's not yours. So you know how to transmute and pivot from what you've been internalizing and creating from that was never yours. There's an art to it where it's graceful. It starts to become part of the initiation, part of the act, because life is art. Those people who are so serious with life, like they're like, it has to be like this way. Life is miserable for them. They're miserable. They're depressed. They're like this. They're rigid. So you want to move from this rigidness, right? Not being argumentative to protect yourself to protect this version of yourself you thought you were, which is like every coach's living nightmare. They don't want people who are not coachable. They don't want people who are argumentative. They want people who are willing to receive a different perspective, willing to see themselves differently, willing to take more responsibility of themselves, willing to step up. And when you feel that emotional discomfort of meeting these parts of yourself you've been rejecting and running away from there, life goes up, 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 up. So you want to remove the stories you have around these emotions, this discomfort. And you want to transmute all these stories into gold. Everything has a sacred role. Everything that you've experienced, all the stories you have, they have a sacred role. And that's my gift. My gift is knowing how to pierce through your ego, your conditioning, right to the depth of your soul, the most pure version of you. So that everything becomes like a shell that you come out of, like that. It becomes part of the act. So, if you resonate with this information, join me in the Sovereign Mind Activation. That's where we make your mind more succinct. Instead of just taking in all this information and internalizing it and disempowering your God-given throne, you actually use it to your benefit. You use it to pour into your soul. And from there, we'll be opening soul-driven radiance, where you actually, from this sovereign mind, you actually use your emotions to channel your soul blueprint so that you can actually create what your soul came here to create. And there's no performance. It's actually we're decoding all these parts of you that you were conditioned to being, so that we can actually see the true you that just radiates from just being. You're not performing. It's not about the outfit. It's not about how you look. It's not about what you have. It's about who you're being, regardless of all of that, regardless of what you're lacking. It's about how you receive each moment. So you can find more information below this video or in the about section. Otherwise, see you on the other side.